Hello, everybody. Alida Zweidler-McKay with CM Coach, where we're all about helping you build career clarity and confidence and also become engaging leaders. So, in last week's program, I talked with you about how to make the case for flexible work or working from home as people are kind of heading back to the office after the pandemic and companies are trying to figure out what's the right way to balance the flexibility around that with getting people back to work and back to collaboration. So today I want to talk to you about the manager side of that. So let's say you're a manager and you've got some people on your team who are wanting some flexible or remote working options going forward. I know for many of my clients that is kind of anxiety producing because they want to be fair, they want to make sure they're making the best decision for their employees and that they're being as flexible as they can, but they also want to make sure that they're getting the productivity that they need and that they're able to meet their, the requirements that the company has for them and for their teams. So it's a lot to juggle and a lot to think about. And I know, some of my clients and many other managers out there are worried and wondering about what's the right way to go here. So today I wanted to talk to you about kind of an approach that you can use as you think through these decisions. And this is along the lines of the kinds of things that I help my clients do in our leadership program, really working on creating decisions that are going to make sense for people, that are going to build engagement, that are going to build trust, and that are ultimately going to get the kinds of results that will get them ahead and get their team members ahead. So the two criteria that I want you to or factors that I really want you to take into account when you're thinking about how to create a flexible work environment and how to be open to requests from employees for flexibility or for working from home are really to be thinking about making criteria-based decisions and also setting clear outcome expectations. And, these are concepts that apply to many, many situations, not just flexible work or working from home. When you can work in this way across the board in your leadership, you build trust, you help people understand what's required, and you also provide a whole lot of room for them to do things the way that works for them, which ultimately leads to better engagement and better productivity. So let's take them kind of one at a time here. So what do I mean by making criteria-based decisions? Well, a lot of the time I see managers, more than I would expect, making decisions based on kind of what they think is right, but not necessarily really being able to articulate or describe the criteria for those decisions. And so when you make a criteria-based decision, you're saying, I'm making this decision for these reasons, and I've taken all these other things into account, but I've balanced them out in this way so that, these are the top reasons why I want to do it this way, and I understand these other things might also be a factor, but here's why I don't think they apply in our situation. In other words, making criteria-based decisions means really being clear about the why about anything that you're doing and being able to tie that why to what's in the best interest of the team and its goals and what you're trying to accomplish together. And wherever you can, also making it tie back to what's in it for the employee so that you can show that you're really taking a balanced view between what serves the company and also what serves the employee. So criteria-based decision making, and then being able to really articulate that to people in a way that brings them along, makes sense to them, fits with their understanding of the world and how they see things, can really go a long way toward helping people accept the choices that you make. So as it relates to things like work from home or flexible work or, when people should come into the office, being able to really be clear about what are the criteria for what would make it okay for somebody to work from home? What are the decision criteria that somebody could use when they're deciding whether or not they need to come into the office for a particular meeting, or whether they need to travel to a client site for a particular, event. If you can get some clear decision criteria, then you set people up to make good decisions for themselves. That frees you up from not having to make all those decisions yourself all the time, but also gives them the flexibility to use their own judgment. And that's a judgment that you'll be coaching them on and sort of moving them through as you support their choices. So that's criteria-based decision making. And then the other component is really about having clear expectations and clear outcomes. So when you can articulate for somebody exactly what it is that they need to accomplish in the organization. So what are the overall goals of the organization? What are the goals of the department? What are the goals of the team? And then within that, what are the goals for the individual and how does that contribute to the team and the department and the organization? Then you get a really clear line of sight and you create that line of sight for people about what they're working on and what they need to get done and why. And that, again, is an opportunity to create a whole lot of independence for people, because if they know what they're trying to get to, then you can free up the reins a little bit on how they get there. And this can be especially useful if you're working with people who've got a different work style from you or who might take a slightly different route from the one that you would take. If you know what the outcome is that you're going for, you can allow for that freedom and that flexibility, which is one of the things that gives people a whole lot of engagement and ownership over their work when they can do it their way. Now, this isn't to say that you can't have expectations for the coordination piece of it, right? So giving them responsibility for the outcome doesn't mean that you don't have expectations for how they might need to coordinate with other people or take other departments or other teams into account as they do their work. That can be part of your expectations as well. But the work for you as a manager is to get really clear about what those are. What are all of those explicit and implicit expectations you have about the work that'll get done and how it'll get done and how it'll get coordinated, so that you can articulate that for somebody, and then they can sort of use their own judgment about how to meet those expectations. And then, of course, the final piece of that is really closing the loop on those expectations so that you're holding people accountable for meeting them. If you set a bunch of expectations up front, but then you let it go and you don't really hold them to them if they don't meet them, then that erodes trust and that erodes their sense of needing to do things a certain way or listen to you and do what you want them to get done. So all of that is relevant to the choices around work from home, right? So if somebody's really clear about what they need to get done and in what time frame, and you're holding them accountable to that time frame, their choices about whether to work from home or whether to work from the office, when they need to come in to coordinate with their colleagues, can all be left to them. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you have to require or insist on. Now, having said that, there's nothing wrong with having some standard policies, like for the sake of coordination, we want everyone to be in the office 2 days a week or whatever, to make things kind of fair. I know a lot of companies are playing with those ideas. I would just encourage you, as you experiment with them, to really see which ones do make a difference in terms of coordination and productivity, and which ones just seem like a good idea but maybe don't move the needle on that. And if you pose that as a learning agenda for yourself and for your team, and you are gathering good information that will help you make those judgments about what mattered and what worked and what didn't, I think that'll go a long way toward having employees really see that you are looking out for their best interests, that you're trying to juggle what's the needs of the company with their individual needs, and that you're moving forward in a way that supports experimentation and innovation, not only in kind of the products or services that you provide to your customers, but also in how people work with one another. So that's your tip for today. If you're a manager facing some of these questions, I hope you'll find this point of view useful. If I can support you in any way as you're thinking this through, this is the kind of thing that I do with my clients. We think through decisions that they're facing. We articulate criteria. We talk about how to communicate those well and how to bring people along and how to really be the kind of engaging leader that people want to work for, that gets productivity and also gets them noticed so that they're first in line for promotions and pay raises and all those great things that come with being the kind of leader that people want to follow. If that appeals to you and you'd like to know more about it, you can schedule a time for us to talk at zmcoach.com/apply. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes, talk about your current work situation, where you might be feeling a little bit stuck, where you want to go, and if I can help you get from here to there, we'll talk about what that could look like. And if I'm not the right fit to support you with that, we'll talk about that too, and I'll see if I can point you to other resources. My goal is for everybody in this world to have better lives at work, where they feel productive and excited to go to work and like they have some room to maneuver. And I accomplish that by helping people find jobs that they love, careers that they love, and then to lead in ways that they're creating that for themselves and for the people who work with them. So Again, if that's appealing to you, I'd love to chat. zmcoach.com/apply. Take care.